Hey, this is Blitz Academy, and I'm going to show you how to use a graph. This can be really confusing because you've grown up and you've probably seen, problems that look like this. 3 plus 3 equals square with a question mark. And you say, oh, it's a 6. And you write in 6, and you get an A plus, and then a lollipop, and that's a lollipop. And then your parents, take you to the fair, where you go around on the Ferris wheel because you did such a good job. My Ferris wheel looks like a lollipop. We did such a good job on your equation, and then you look at this graph and you're like, what does this have to do with math? Like, maybe you're not very good at drawing. Obviously I'm not. So a graph might just kind of scare you a little bit. I'm going to show you how to use a graph. First, I'm going to give you a little bit of vocabulary on the graph. This right here, this tall one, is called the y-axis. So most graphs are going to have a little y that shows right there. This is called the x-axis. And this is really important because when you get into algebra, there's going to be a lot of x's and y's that appear in your problems. So it's good to know what the y and what the x is because they're going to correspond to different things. Now, on this graph, you're thinking it's probably not complete yet. There are going to be little tick marks. These marks are used to represent different numbers. So in this case, or in most cases, these tick marks each represent 1. So this would be 1, this would be 2, this would be 3. But that doesn't have to be the case. You have to pay attention to the graphs because sometimes it could be, this is like 10 and this is 20. Or this could be 3.5 and this could be 7 and this could be 10.5. There's no way to know unless if you pay attention to these tick marks. If there are no numbers under there, then you can assume it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to count it out. And that's what we're going to do today. So when you're looking at a graph and you're given a coordinate, let's say the coordinate was 2, 2. That's what you'd see. Parentheses, a 2, 2. And you say, well, what does this mean? When you're looking at a graph, the first thing you're always going to pay attention to is this first number before the comma. This is going to be your x value. Whee! That's going to be your x value. This value here is going to be your y value. So the comma separates the x from the y. The way you graph it is to start at this center right here. So this is the origin. That's what it's called, the very center, where y is 0 and x is 0. And you're going to move to the right 2, because this is a positive 2, 1, 2. And then you're going to move up to 2 for y. So you move right 2, then there's the comma, and then you move up 2, 1, 2. Now, there's this imaginary intersection of these two lines, if they were to just shoot off into infinity. So where x is 2 and y is 2, that's where you're going to draw this point. See? So that point is the coordinate 2, 2. And it's important you label that because sometimes people don't know exactly what point you have on the graph. Like if I were to write something right here, you wouldn't be able to guess very easily what it is, unless if I said, well, this is 5, 5. Now there can be different numbers. Let's say that we had a point right here. Would you be able to guess what that is? Well, let's count it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you move up and you're like, oh, well that's 1. So the first number was 5. We moved over 5 spaces. And we moved up 1 space. And that gives us this point right here. But what if it appeared in other parts of the graph, not just this top right corner? Well, there are negative numbers for these values too. Let's say we had a dot right here. Let's find out what the coordinate is. We start at this origin. Remember, that's always your start space. And you move which direction? Left, 1. So you have to remember that you moved left because that means you're going to have a negative value. But for y, we actually moved up. So in this case, right and up are positive, but down and left are negative. So we moved left, which is going to be a negative x value. Here's the x-axis. But we moved up for y. So if we were writing this out, this would be negative 1, 3. Sorry for my messy handwriting. But negative 1, and then 1, 2, 3. Let's say we had something down here. Maybe right there. We start and we move left. 1, 2. And then we move down. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we moved left and we moved down. So both of the values are going to be negative. And I'm going to write negative 2, negative 4. See how that works? It's really easy. And if you were to graph a line between two of these points, you would just take a dot and draw a straight line to the next dot, however straight or neat it can be. So that's the way that you're supposed to use these graphs. make sure you know what the tick marks say. If the tick marks have a 10 or a 20, then the values are going to be different. It's going to be like -10, 30, or 50, 50. So make sure that you pay attention to that, and I hope that this guide was really useful in helping you figure out how to use these darned things. So this is Blitz Academy signing out. If you want to see more videos like this, then you can click on some of the links in the video above. So you're still here. Well, I'm gonna doodle. So are you still here? What the? Would you click one of the links already? Yeesh. This is Nathan Eloquent signing off.